No.
Okay. Well, we always have a full agenda, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. First, I want to say thank you to everyone, the residents. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your feedback and attendance here. Thank you as well to all of the presenters. We really appreciate your time. We know this is a late evening for you, so we do really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedules to come and present to us. This is the Neighborhood District 3 meeting. Just a reminder kind of the format of this meeting. It's mostly informational for us as residents. So this is a great time to ask questions. You also can give feedback, but this is not always the best place to give feedback, just meaning that we're not the people in charge. We're just also residents like you. So it's most helpful if you also give that feedback to council, to the planning commission directly. We do try to pass that information back when we have the chance, but there really is more power in you also bringing that directly to them when you can. We'll go ahead and get started. We will have department topics first. We're going to have a discussion from Cody Hill, who is the Economic Development Director, and we'll turn the time over to him first.
I don't really need a clicker.
Yeah, there should be a clicker up there.
I think it's right.
All right, here we go. Okay, great. Yeah, my name is Cody Hill. I'm the Economic Development Division Director for Provo City. I've been in this position for just over 6 months. Prior to that, I was at Midvale as their Economic Development Manager, but I've been living in Provo since 2020. 2020, we moved to be closer to my in-laws who are from West Provo as well. So I live actually Lakeview North, just north of Provo High, and love it. Love the neighborhood. Love being on West Provo, and love being an advocate for West Provo, and hopefully getting some exciting things happening. So I know we want retail. There's not much to say for retail west of I-15 in Provo, and so that is when I first stepped into this role. One of the higher priorities that I was given was to get some development happening on the west side, get some development happening to spur some retail growth here. So one thing that's happening, we have the Walmart that's going in, that's planned for basically Lakeview Parkway and I-15. So we're still in discussions with the group. They have submitted some plans to us. Nothing has been approved though. The Walmart, we don't have the dimensions of it's planned to be a super Walmart, and those typically are about 182,000 square feet of retail space. And then they are also planning to have some outpad retail right there. So they're thinking between 30,000 and 40,000 square feet of retail space. And we don't know yet what tenants that might be, but it would likely be, either retail or service oriented commercial to support the needs of the community. And so we're still in discussions with them. Nothing has been finalized to this point, but we are working to get that to happen at the same time as the residential portion. And so there is a residential component that is right next to the Walmart. And so it's the same development group that is working on all three of those components, the super Walmart, the retail outpads, and then the residential component. And the residential component is 150 residential units that's planned to go there. So some time. Then I was also just asked to speak just generally about potential retail sites in West Provo. And there are a few pockets. So this is what we were just talking about, the Walmart. So there's the airport, here's the Epic Sports Park, and Lakeview Parkway is right there. So this is where the Walmart is planned to be the residential component, and then the retail pads. Another area that is right for commercial is right here. This is owned by the city. The city purchased all of this from the church a while ago and developed the Epic Sports Park. And that still has, I believe, 5 soccer field, well, not soccer fields, just fields. You can do soccer, you can do lacrosse, you can do ultimate frisbee, you can do a lot. So competition fields. So they're still, they're 3/4 of the way built. So they're still looking for about 5 more fields to go in here. And then they'll also looking at pickleball courts, and then they'll be completed. And just kind of being forward looking, they did not plan on putting on any recreational amenities in that little triangle right there that's zoned SC2. They zoned that commercial with the intent of having development go in there that would support the airport, the Epic Sports Park, with hospitality amenities, so hotel and fast food options, a service station, a mini mart. So the city put out an RFP about a month and a half ago, and we received 4 responses to that RFP, and we're in the process of selecting a respondent, a development group where the city would work with them in seeing that development happen. And we're really excited about it. So some commercial will go in here, some restaurants, as well as hotel and a mini mart and a gas station. Yeah.
Would you mind just, for people who might not understand, explaining like what an RFP is?
I'm sorry about the jargon. Yeah, please interrupt me if I spill jargon or I'm not making sense, or if you have questions. So an RFP is a request for proposal. So the city owns property, and if we have this property and we're not needing to use it for city hall, for a park, for a public works site, then the city might contemplate an economic development purpose for it. And that is specifically what happened here. So RFP stands for request for proposal. And what the city does is they say, here is our vision for this site. It's about a little over 5 acres. And in these 5 acres, it's zoned SC2, it's zoned commercial. These are what the parameters of what you can build are. The city believes it's in the best interest for Provo to have hotel there that can service the airport, that can service the tourist that's happening, the sports tourism. So teams come in from the airport, they can compete here, they can stay here. You have a really great opportunity where a hotelier can work with Breeze, Allegiant, American, whatever airlines are coming. We'll hear more about that in about 20 minutes. And have agreements with them where their pilots and their staff can stay at the hotel on a regular basis. And it's a great amenity, and it's a great spot for a hotel. So thank you for that. And so the city basically releases this request for proposal, this RFP, to the public, to anyone that wants to see it, read it, and respond to it. It goes on a state platform called Bonfire, and developers and hoteliers can go there and look and see what options, what opportunities are available, reach out and ask questions through that portal. And then when the deadline hits, the city puts together a committee to review all of the requests for proposals and possibly interview some of them, and then make a selection. And then at that point, we enter into a development agreement with them where they agree to build X, Y, and Z, and the city agrees to sell the land, often with a reverter, so that if they don't do what they say they're going to build, it reverts back to the city, just so that the
city's not selling it. They're only gonna lease it.
So that is an option that we were looking at, yeah. And so
We were told that
yeah,
when they changed the zone.
and that is in the RFP, and that is something that we want to look at. And
Well, now you're saying it's for sale.
so generally speaking, for an RFP, that is typically the process. You are correct. For this specific parcel, we are talking to a development group, and working on the details of a lease option. But yeah, that is correct. I appreciate that. Yes,
So on the previous slide, sorry, I should have raised my hand when you were.
yeah, no, that's fine.
In our last neighborhood meeting, it may have been the one before that. There was discussion about the residential parcel there.
Yes,
That is now a residential parcel, at least portion of that is now residential because of a zone change, correct?
yes. So the zone change hasn't happened yet, but that is what
The planning commission has
developers,
passed it. Is that right?
the planning, sorry, Bill.
Planning Commission has made a recommendation on it, hasn't been to city council yet.
So at that point, there was some controversy over this because obviously one of the concerns of a lot of Provo residents is single family homes for purchase. And the part that was being changed was a request for a zone change that would only be for rentals. And it sounds like this entire residential parcel is only for rentals. Is that correct?
That is what they're proposing, correct?
Yeah, that seems, so I guess maybe I'll just relay some feedback. At a time when really people are clamoring for homes for single families to buy, this is a little bit alarming. And we're just kind of wondering when that's gonna happen. If we just keep giving rentals to big corporations, this I think, one of the partners in this is the person who founded Qualtrics. And these are big companies that have rentals, and I think a lot of us don't want to see Provo turn into a corporate town.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm just relaying feedback on that.
No, and I appreciate that. And I've only been here 6 months, but I've seen several projects be proposed and with every one of them, there's been pushback from the city. We need to see a for sale component. And I know even in, if you're in University heading north towards mouth of the canyon, there's that Jamestown development there. And they put a pause on their they switched their phasing around because the city council pushed back and said, no, there has to be a more significant for sale component to what you're proposing. And so they are going ahead with their phase 2, which they moved to phase 1, which is a commercial purpose, and reconfiguring and redoing their numbers for that. And so
Just so when I go back and talk to people, not a single plot is for sale in that entire residential parcel.
that's what's being proposed, correct? Yeah, yes, sir.
I could back up just one little bit. I'm kind of a critic of pickleball courts and how things have been happening there. And when I think I squeezed you just a little bit, and you come out and said that Provo City was not going to do anything or fund the pickleball courts, but you were looking for outside investor, and they fell through. So I'm just curious as to where that is.
The status of funding the complete build out of the Epic Sports Park.
No, just the pickleball courts.
Yeah, that's a component of, so the Parks and Rec director, Doug, he is still in the process of finding funding. Like you said, there was a group that was very energetic and excited about pickleball and had made commitments to the city about fundraising and getting a significant portion of the pickleball courts built through fundraising, and that hasn't materialized yet.
I apologize, it wasn't you, it was.
That's okay,
It was the rec director
Yeah,
that did voice that.
The projected access, to that property there, the roads, how they go in and out. To
The Walmart one?
The Walmart and the other residential area.
yeah, so
That came up in planning commission.
mhm.
I don't remember all of the details, but I believe they were at least currently planning on putting in an additional light for access to the Walmart, and then you can kind of see the road that they're proposing there. But that's all still once again, in the proposal phase, right? And so like nothing has been finalized yet, to my knowledge.
Yeah, they're still talking to the traffic engineer and getting that. Any other questions about the Epic Sports Park commercial portion here?
Any like rough timeline where you're looking at? You said you're right now in the RFP process.
Yeah,
What does that mean, like going forward? Like you're gonna pick one in a few months and then start development, or what is the?
no, we're gonna be picking one yeah, so we'll probably narrow it down to one in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And then be working with that group on an agreement. And then once that agreement is finalized, then
Then you start the process, yeah,
Exactly,
proposing and.
yes. Mhm. But it wouldn't require any, I mean, we really wouldn't
It's
want
already
any,
zoned.
exactly, it's zoned commercial, it's zoned for what we're wanting, so. Yeah, sir.
To address other commercial zones on the west side of I-15.
Yes.
Looking at the map, it
Oh, yeah,
kind
yeah, I had to zoom out a bit so that we could get all of
Yeah.
the.
It's a big area.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so if we want to go jump to the north, so in my neighborhood, the Lakeview, North Ivory Homes development, that is a specific zoning that does allow mixed use. And so, Ivory Homes development could put in some commercial pockets in there to serve the community. Like we're not obviously talking about a super Walmart here, more like a smaller service oriented, like a barber or a small retail shop there. So that is an opportunity for development there. And then we also have the Geneva and Center Street. You have commercial activity that's going in there. So right now there's two phases to that development. There is a retail component, which is phase 2, and then there is the residential component, which is phase 1. And that is, I believe, 188 apartments and 18 condos that's planned for the residential component. And then the commercial component is phase 2, which they don't have completely ironed out, but what I've been told by the developer is for retail pads that they're looking on putting in. I don't know the square footage exactly, but they are looking at 4 retail pads, which could be 2 or could be 4, depending on the use. So if they have a user that would just need more space, then that could shrink a little bit, but that's what they're looking at. Yes.
Is Coffee Pod staying?
Sorry?
Coffee Pod, is it staying?
Coffee, the
Coffee shop, yeah.
yeah, I have, yes.
This is just Facebook hearsay, but the owner of the Coffee Pod posted that originally they were included in that plan to stay on and that they were then given 30 days notice a couple weeks ago, but then they're allowed to stay on for a couple more months, but they are not included in the on there. That you get for what that is, but
I've from the developer, I've not heard that they've made a commitment. So.
Do you mind reaching out and seeing what their Coffee Pod is, or if Coffee Pod needs help
Yes.
locating or?
They're screwing her so bad.
Yep, I can look into that.
Corey, is that lot just what's east of like Subway?
Yes.
And then that,
And
and the
south of
corner
here,
that's
yeah.
just sort of
Yes.
nothing is not included.
yeah, it's just grass right now, or not grass.
Yes.
Non-grass.
Yeah. Do you know what kind of retail at all that they're potentially looking at putting in there, or is it?
I've asked and I've pressed and they don't have very many details at this point. It's their phase 2 and they're focused on getting that phase 1, the residential component in.
Same question with the sports park.
Yes.
I know that you guys haven't decided on. a
We have
development.
actually more control over that because that is property that the city owns. And
Right.
so we can be more have a say in what's going in.
Okay,
And restaurants, specifically restaurants that you would associate with kind of an athletic. Yeah, a sports park. So probably more fast casual, something along the lines of like a Costa Vida Cafe Rio where you can go in, get a relatively healthy meal, quick, and then get out.
Okay. Are you worried at all, or have you guys done like, I don't know how this works, like studies, but just with how the sports park is very like what's the word? Seasonal?
Yes.
Are you guys worried at all about being able to sustain something there year round where the sports park is mostly utilized kind of in the spring and the fall and the summer? Is that a concern, or do you guys feel like the traffic from the airport and just the locals will be able to sustain something there?
I think that is a mild concern that exactly like you said, it's seasonal. So June to October, beginning of October is really your window to see a lot of use, and then there's going to be an off season. And so I think that there's going to be other areas where you can have hotel use, tourism, having people stay there that are going up to Sundance is a great option. Sports tourism, things like that. So
Do you have a comment from online? Is that what you're using? Perfect. Let's hear that one. Sorry.
This is from neighborhood board member.
Yeah, Lakeview South.
Yes, David Gale. Provo's west side has struggled for years to attract a full-service grocery store and other retail options. Nearly every resident I've spoken with agrees that the Walmart in the south doesn't meet the community's needs. And then 2 questions. What specific steps is the city taking to attract and encourage more commercial development, particularly in Northwest Provo and also around Center Street? And then the second question, and what can residents do to encourage commercial growth?
very good questions. So the first one is, what are we doing to bring in a grocery store to the west side? Is their question. So like I said, this property is not owned by the city. We didn't get to pick where the Walmart was going. It's obviously very south on the west side of Provo, and I live up here, and I would love to have a grocery store closer to me, and this one is not going to be my closest grocery store. What we're doing to support retail development on the west side is we are working with developers. I think this is definitely a move in the right direction to getting commercial uses here, getting restaurants here, getting a hotel here, and bringing more activity and awareness of the west side of West Provo. I think the expansion of the airport helps bring more activity to West Provo, even if they're flying in here and they're going to want a gas station, they're going to want a rental car place, they're going to want more and more things, and that will, I think, kind of create a domino effect and be a catalyst for development on the west side.
So nothing besides those parcels we mentioned are currently zoned though for commercial use. Is there any plan to proactively rezone to commercial use to ease that for developer, or are we just putting all that burden on the developer to pick a spot, go through the rezoning process and develop?
I think I'm saying what you zone for commercial.
That spot up there.
Yeah, so we have here, we have here, and we have here, and then we have here.
Isn't 6 South going to connect to Lakeview, and isn't there commercial there at the connection?
You're saying right here?
It doesn't go through.
Isn't it supposed to keep going down through and connect to
One day,
eventually? Yeah, to Lakeview, I mean.
And that's all agricultural.
Oh,
now.
I thought there was a little commercial spot there.
It's all that. Sure, in the master plan, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
but
right on the master plan.
it's on the master plan for commercial.
But it's not pre-zoned. The only ones we have pre-zoned are the ones that Corey is telling you about.
And there's no plans to change that right now.
Not that I'm aware of. You had a question?
That kind of circled back to what I was mentioning. I know this is hard but basically the general plan that I've looked at for the west side, and I've heard this from multiple people, is that there is not commercial left kind of in the vast middle of what is currently on the general plan to be nothing but residential. Right now it's like agricultural land and everything, but I guess the general plan is like our hopes for that side of the town, and I don't think it reflects currently what the hopes are for a lot of the residents that live there. And so I guess with that, I guess you're stepping into this role fairly newly, and I just wanted to get kind of your thoughts, because I have heard things like there is no room, there's no place, there's no indication that commercial could be successful in the middle of all that residential. And so I don't know if, I know that's a hard question, but like, can you speak to that at all? Because that is a big concern that my neighbors share, people I talked through in the city share. I mean, it's just weighs heavily.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I mean, as the Economic Development Division Director, like it is my job to bring services, to bring amenities, to bring commerce to the city and to serve all the residents. And that is the hat that I wear. I also am a resident and I live up there, and I want that as a person that lives there, that shops, that has needs. And so it's definitely something that I am working on and want to hear absolutely from my neighbors. What uses do you want to see commercial? What commercial uses do you want to see? Do you want to see more restaurants? Do you want to see more retail? Do you want to see offices? Do you want to see, you know?
Yeah. Sorry, just to
Yeah.
piggyback on that. And part of that, my understanding has been that the general plan is kind of an invitation for developers to kind of look at what the city wants to be there in the future. And so right now our general plan doesn't reflect that on that side in that area that a lot of us are talking about ad nauseum to the city about. And I understand there's reasons that it got to that point. And I guess I have hopes that that can change, and I hope that you also have that hope as well.
Yeah.
So that's really reassuring to hear, at least that you have some hope. I understand that hopes and reality don't always match up. But yeah, I mean, thinking about it, it's like, even if we could copy paste, this is my pie in the sky dream, right? So take it with a grain of salt, but if we could copy paste the Days Market frontage somewhere along center,
yeah,
I think that would be beautiful. Like that sort of vibe, like just have a couple of restaurants, a couple of shops, a tool store. I mean, maybe the people who have lived here for a very long time are kind of whimsical for those days of yore when there was a tool store and a grocery store. And I think it made a lot of sense to be there.
Yeah, and I think another component that we haven't really talked about that often gets ignored is we have an amazing river that cuts through our city that we just kind of turn our backs to for the most part. It doesn't really get utilized for recreation. It doesn't really get utilized for tourism. And I think that is an opportunity for growth in Provo as well as Utah Lake. We have a very negative perception of Utah Lake, that it is gross and dirty and will kill your dog. And I think that was true, a lot more true 20 years ago than it is today. And that recreation, as awareness gets increased of Utah Lake as a viable place to recreate, to go out on the beach with picnic with your family, to go out on a boat, that we're going to see services popping to support those uses.
I would love to see that. And I would say that at least on the north side of the river, it is extremely well recreated. If you can go out there any day in the afternoon and meet 50 or 100 of your neighbors.
Yeah, that new park, the
Gateway.
Oh,
and at the park, it's always
the Gateway Park, the Delta Gateway Park was just fantastic.
Thank you.
Again, a comment from online from David Gale again. One concern I hear a lot is about commercial properties being rezoned to residential on the west side. There's one near Center Street in Geneva, for example, that's proposed to be rezoned from commercial to residential. Many feel that we're moving in the wrong direction.
The Planning Commission next week and the staff recommendations for denial.
everyone else can also voice their opinion, so, right, yeah, the planning commission, right, to your city council, let people know how you feel.
We got one more question before airport flies up here.
It's a great idea. And could you update us in your backyard? I think we're putting in residential to attract employees preferential to firefighters and our police officers. I think it's a great idea because so many of our police officers now are coming out of the area and are only working as reserve officers. I commend that we're working in that direction and addressing the fact that we do have an issue being able to get our providers on board. And I think we're giving them a preferential on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so that is a workforce housing project that's going in just south of Provo High. Yeah. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Cody, and thanks you everyone for your comments, questions. Rachel?
Just a plug, we had a few people, even though it's not in your district, it's just over the freeway, wondering about Provo Town Center. They will be presenting their plan and potential HTRZ to the city council work meeting on Tuesday, which you can, oh, maybe, is that a maybe?
That's a
Is that a maybe? Boo.
How will we know for sure? Or when will we-
tomorrow when we publish the agenda,
Okay.
it will be a for sure.
Okay,
Yeah, either way.
anyway,
Only for Tuesday.
that's something that you would just watch on YouTube or Facebook. It's just a discussion. It's not a hearing.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. We're gonna turn some time over to some folks from the Provo City Airport.
Do I need this? Can you hear me?
Online might not be able to.
Okay, I'll use this then. How's that? Is that better? Just a quick introduction, Brian Torgerson, Director of the Provo Airport. Happy to be here tonight. First off, thank you, Andrew, or Rachel, I guess, for putting this up. We want to make everyone aware we are in the middle of a master planning process for our airport. The next public meeting is on Monday, November 17th. 5 to 7 p.m. located at the new terminal building on level 2. Parking is free. So come voice your concerns, your input. We'll make sure that we're hearing what you as the community have to say in that effort. So this public meeting will focus on facility requirements. So we've been through in the master planning process that you start with kind of an inventory of what you have. And then you go on to make a projection of what the anticipated activity will be over the next few years. And then that projection has to be approved by the FAA before you can go any further. So we've gotten that approval from the FAA. Our consulting group has completed kind of the projections, both for commercial traffic as well as GA traffic. And so now we've gone on to, provided that those projections are accurate, and they may or may not be, what facilities are needed at the airport to accommodate those projections. So that will be the large part of what will be discussed in this meeting. So, for example, do we need more hangar space for general aviation? Is our terminal size correctly for the projected demand of commercial traffic, et cetera? So come out. If we end up being longer than 2 hours, we'll validate your parking, so don't let that be a deterrent. Go ahead and come out. We'll share with you what's on the horizon. So our purpose tonight is we understand there's some y'all on the west side of Provo have noticed a little bit of traffic increase. Is that accurate to say? So want to address that just a little bit, maybe why you're seeing increased traffic on the west side or at the airport. Also, maybe just talk a little bit about what we can do about it. I know that's a concern, and John, good to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you.
We did receive your letter. We're working through that and hopefully, I don't anticipate that we will resolve all of your concerns tonight. That's probably optimistic thinking. But I hope what we can do is educate, on what we can do as an airport, as a community, as a city council, as a mayor, those sorts of things. So the Provo Airport, as you know, is, well, I guess you know, has been around for quite a while, the 1940s. Since that time, the Provo Airport's become what's known as a primary airport in the National Integrated Plan of Airport Systems. What that means is, just like the interstate back in the 70s was built to kind of as to bolster up the defense capabilities of our nation. The Provo Airport is part of the National Integrated Plan of Airport Systems, which fills almost kind of the same role. It fits into a category of airports that is important to national defense and national commerce and all those other sorts of things. With that, we receive federal funding for our maintenance, our capital projects, which is on average right now, it's about $10 million every other year is what we're receiving from federal dollars. Now, those funds are come from user fees, right? So fuel tax on aviation also. Goodness, there's a whole list of them. But it's not a general fund type of trust that funds the aviation world. So anyway, just a little bit about Provo Airport. So in addition to being a primary airport, we're also currently a non-hub, and that gets into the commercial side of things, where depending on how many passengers going through your airport, you're either a non-hub, a small hub, medium hub, or large hub. So examples of non-hubs are Provo. Small hub is Provo. So with our commercial traffic growth over the last 3 to 4 years, we anticipate with our enplanement numbers. Now, an enplanement is a passenger getting on a commercial aircraft in Provo. So total passengers is roughly double this number. When I say enplanements, just think, total passengers is double that. So in 2025, we anticipate about 535,000 passenger enplanements. So just over 1 million total passengers in 2025. That puts us in that category, really, really close to being a small hub airport. And where that's important is competing for federal funds. Right now, we're in a group of about 3,000 airports that we compete against. When we become a small hub airport, that pool drops drastically down to about 70 or 80 airports. So that's a good thing that allows us to maintain our facilities. So we're excited about what's happening on the commercial side. I don't know that that's why all of you are here tonight. Fortunately, our commercial traffic has designated traffic routes, basically, and they're flying instrument flight rules, which means they're essentially given direction every move they make and where they can fly and where they can't. And so that traffic's out over the lake. Very rarely, if ever, would you see a commercial airplane on the west side, east of the airport. It could happen in a very rare instance, but the majority of the traffic that we're talking about that's causing some concern is our general aviation, and probably more specifically our flight training traffic. That's your small single engine piston driven aircraft, which at Provo Airport right now we have 6 flight schools, which is a lot. It's a ton, right? To make it worse, Spanish Fork has about that many also. So what can we do? Any guesses on who has jurisdiction on airspace? Who calls the shots on airspace and what's done in the sky?
FAA.
ultimately?
It's the FAA, right? How much jurisdiction does the Provo Airport have?
0. On proposing?
We'll get to that. On actually what happens on a daily basis, we have 0 jurisdiction, right? So in general, we cannot mandate anything, right?
Landlord, you can quit rent.
Yeah.
You're right. However,
You can stop accepting flight schools, keep accepting flight schools.
actually, we can.
You can't.
We can. As a federally obligated airport, we have to live by this list known as grant assurances. Every time we accept funds, which every airport in the world does, we obligate ourselves to comply by this list of things. One of those is we are a public use airport open to the public.
So you get new funds every time a new flight school.
No,
It's
no, all I'm saying is when we receive funds, right, as a public use airport, we obligate ourselves to follow certain rules. And one of those is we have to be open to the public and not discriminate in any way, shape, or form.
It sounds like you're saying you have no discretion on when certain flight schools might be abusing the neighborhoods. You have no discretion over that whatsoever. Is that what you're saying?
As far as what we can mandate, that's correct. Now, what we can do, right? So this is what I want to talk about a little bit. What can we do, right? So we have 0 jurisdiction over air traffic. That's completely 100% the FAA. What we can do is ask. We can make suggestions. We can work together as a neighborhood, not as a neighborhood, as a community at the airport, to come up with best practices. So one example of that. So in pilot training, and I'm not a pilot, Matt is, but there are a laundry list of activities that occur as a pilot in pilot training. Some of those activities have to happen at an airport, such as landing and taking off, right? There's no way around it. You land and you take off at an airport. But there is a long list of other activities that can be done outside of the airport environment. And so in those instances, what's happened in the past, and it's still happening, is we coordinate as a community at the airport to make sure those other training activities are happening away from populated areas. So there's a published map, and when I say published, I use that very loosely. It's published by Spanish Fork Airport. They have a document that they published with their consultants that they give to their flight schools and say, hey, there's a lot of traffic in around Provo and Spanish Fork. We'd really like you to go out to the West Desert and practice all of these other maneuvers that don't have to happen at the airport. UVU has done the same thing for their students. We'd really like you out west of the lake, out over West Desert, to do those training exercises. So if you were to look at the radar on any given day, you would see a bazillion aircraft out in the West Desert doing these practice runs, maneuvers, whatever else is required of the pilot. But why do they want to be in Provo when they land? Any ideas? Why do they want to come to Provo to land and take off?
The cost.
The cost? Okay, explain that to me a little bit.
Well, I would think they're probably buying their fuel at a cheaper rate at the Provo Airport.
Possibly, okay.
If we're not addressing that, and we probably should.
Sure. Actually, we're one of the most expensive. There's a lot of vocal.
Well, I'm sorry we waded into that.
So, but possibly, right? I would say maybe higher quality fuel, right? We have certain standards at a commercial service airport for our fuel farms that's inspected every year by the FAA, where maybe a Spanish Fork doesn't have that, right? So any other thoughts? Becky, you had your hand up. Why would they want to come to Provo to land?
The tower.
The tower, okay? Part of flight training requirements is you have to practice at a towered airport. The only other towered airport in Utah right now is Hill Airport Space in Salt Lake City, okay, beside Provo. One good thing, Spanish Fork has been approved to someday, if they can afford it, put in a tower.
So I think one of the reasons is, and I'm saying this as someone who's with other people have listened to past meetings before. I know you're new, Brian, and we've listened to meetings that go back several months. And in these meetings, it's pretty clear that the board is deciding where they want the practice fields. And they have proposed new practice fields. And in fact, in the meeting, they say, we're not going to disclose this to the public. And I can show that to you if you'd like. I'd love to be able to do that. I'm not sure that's completely on the up and up. But I think the problem is that, so they have a very, I think the impression we get from listening to the meetings is more than just the impression, it's the explicit phrasing that the board is very, very amiable to putting practice fields where they may want them. Or I'm not sure exactly, but it is very clear that the board is proposing where the practice fields are. That's just in the recording. And they're also deciding where they are. And so the issue really is, you know, we're in Lakeview North neighborhood. My family's been there for 30 years, but we actually had part of a community that goes back to the 1980s. Right now, you could add up 25 years of all the traffic and it's not as bad as it is now. It is unbelievably bad. And talk about bad neighbors. I think we've had some bad neighbors, but you could add up all the bad neighbors in Lakeview, Lakeview and the west side of Provo, add them all up, times it by 10, and they wouldn't even be 1/10 as bad as the airport is with the practice fields. Now, I understand that there are limitations, but this is turning our lives upside down. And it is literally, if people don't understand this, even if you live in Lakeview, unless you live underneath the flight practice field, if you live underneath the flight practice field, you can run a saw, a power tool, and you don't even hear your power tool when they fly over your head. The low frequency vibrations that come from that are stress inducing. They're turning our lives upside down. They're making our pets go crazy. We can't concentrate. I can't work in my home office. We can't have a Zoom meeting. And I'm telling you, the flights over our heads are nonstop, like minute after minute after minute after minute. It's insane. If you think I'm a little on edge, it's because if you lived under this, you would be on edge too. And it's not like we just moved there. Sure. We've been there for 30 years. Sure. So I don't know if we really need a lesson about general aviation practice with the FAA. We do know that the board can propose places for practice fields. They should not be over a densely packed neighborhood with multiple children's schools flying at 400 to 500 feet sometimes, somewhere either below 500 feet or right below 500 feet, and the constant problems that it's causing. We need to have a board that will propose practice fields out of a densely packed neighborhood. There are other places you can have practice fields. If you have to have the practice fields, have them somewhere else. And we know you can propose it because it's on tape.
So I'm not sure, let me just clarify. That's what the board has done, is propose these practice fields. That's the maps I was talking about.
But where are the new ones going to go when
the new ones are the same as they've always been?
Yeah, that's the problem.
And where is it? It's the West Desert is the practice fields. Now, I understand you don't need a lesson, and that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to educate that there are certain parts of flight instruction that have to happen in an airport environment, and that's landing and taking off. What you're seeing is not practice, it's what's called a traffic pattern. And just like when you come up to a four-way stop, there are rules of how you negotiate that intersection. In an airport environment, there are rules as to how you enter the airport and provide enough spacing between you and the next aircraft in line, right? And that's called a traffic pattern. And that's what you're seeing over your house. That can't be changed.
Times a day. Hundreds of times a day. The circuits on Flight Radar 24, we've got screenshots of the yin-yang of all of them. Hundreds of circuits.
And I'm not disputing that.
Try to live under that.
John, I'm trying to understand what that's like. What I'm telling you is that part of flight instruction, I can't change. I can't suggest any alternative.
You can't suggest a different practice field? Go to the south, over the bay.
Well, the practice field we're talking about is the runway. They are approaching the runway to land. And they do that by entering a traffic pattern, which is typically a half a mile to a mile off of the runway that they're proposing to land on, right? Google it, standard airport traffic pattern.
Yes, but
It's again, nothing is hokey happening in Provo as far as what's happening in the airport environment. A standard traffic pattern is the same all across the world. And it's the same for a reason, so that the expectation of those pilots is the same no matter where they go.
I understand, but why aren't they doing circuits over the lake?
They are.
Instead of doing them over our homes? And all the circuits are over our homes. They're not over the lake. They're taking off to the lake, but then they're doing the circuits over our homes. And I'll send you the screenshots.
I have the screenshots, and I can show you the traffic out over the lake.
I can name every single UVU flight school plane. The Skyhawk 172s, they all fly right over our homes, right over our homes. They don't fly out of the lake. They fly over the lake to turn and then come over our homes and do hundreds of circuits.
So they have both options. And any idea why they would choose one over the other?
I don't know. Maybe I need to talk to them. I'd love to.
Because they're told by our control tower what they should do. When the tower is open, that traffic is directed. Anytime they're in our airspace, it's roughly 5 mile diameter outside of our airport.
So the tower is directing them to do the circuits right over the homes.
They're doing what's called a left-hand pattern
in the schools.
Well, it's standard traffic pattern work, right? Now, what we've done is your default traffic pattern as a pilot is a left-hand pattern, which means you're turning left, right? Because you can see more as a pilot as you're turning left. What we've done at Provo Airport, which is one thing we can do, is work with the FAA to make it a right-hand pattern, which puts our traffic preferably out over the lake.
That would be great.
It's done. If you look on our chart, that is our standard traffic pattern, but
a commercial coming in.
It doesn't even have anything to do with that. It's the tower making a decision based on weather, conditions, traffic, all of those other things, if they need to then send traffic somewhere else outside of the standard designated traffic pattern for Provo. So again, who determines that during tower operations? It's the tower controllers based on the traffic they're seeing. And it's a lot.
Who's in the tower at 1 a.m.?
There's no one in the tower at 1 a.m.
Why are planes circling at 1:21 a.m.? You know, Cessna 172s.
Great question. I can't answer that.
Because they want to come, because the practice field's here. They're coming from everywhere to practice over the tops of our homes.
Night training, that's part of the curriculum.
It is also, yeah.
So thank you for
You're
bringing
welcome.
this up.
You're welcome.
I live in Lakeview South.
Okay.
I'm just one street north of the river.
Okay.
So like John said, it's been probably the last 3 years that this problem has just increased exponentially. It's less the little Cessna planes, although that aggravates. It's the helicopters. Aside from life flight, I understand that's an emergency. They can do anything they want to. My heart breaks for them.
Sure.
But these are the aviation school helicopters that are flying on top of my neighborhood. They are flying so low that when those helicopter blades turn, it's a low frequency. The glasses of my windows vibrate, they shake. My cat runs into the closet. I'm not exaggerating.
Sure.
This is crazy. On the Provo River, there are those tall cottonwoods. Sometimes those helicopters are so low, they usually come from northeast and are heading northwest to land at the airport. They usually are, not usually, sometimes they're so low that they are barely clearing the top of those cottonwood trees. There's no reason, in my opinion, for them to have to fly that low. I tried to call the Provo Airport Tower to complain. I tried to call the UVU school to complain. I tell them it's 10:19 a.m. I tell them the color of the helicopter. The first thing that I get from the tower and from the school is, what's the little number on the helicopter? I am sorry, I don't have time to get stressed about this with my windows vibrating, go to the drawer where my binoculars are, go back into the backyard, take my binoculars, focus my binoculars. By that time, it's gone. So when I try to complain, the element that they are looking for, I cannot give it to them. So one question that I have is, why can they not approach over the lake? There is one specific incident, because I freaked out so much, I ended up by calling dispatch. I thought this was going to be and I will give this to you, asking you, but I would like for people to listen to
Sure,
it.
you bet, sorry.
So on Friday, the 22nd of August of this year, there was a helicopter approaching at 10:49 a.m. Provo time, which is 16:49 UTC time. The number N2490H-A2531F, code B06. The altitude, it took me 2 days. I was able to find this online. The altitude was 4,600 feet, 1 or 2 knots per minute. This thing hovered over 8 homes east from me for 2 or 3 minutes, low, boom, 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 boom. Everything was shaking in my home. The foundation of my home is at 2,512 feet. Let's add 20 feet for the roof clearance. So let's call it 2,530. So this thing was hovering at, 4,630. This thing was hovering at 4,600 at 70 feet on top of a roof. I thought
That's 49
it was
feet.
going to crash. I ran out of my home with my cell phone. I called dispatch. I was not able, with the cell phone on speaker, to hear what the woman at dispatch was telling me. After about a minute, this helicopter cleared and just took off, barely cleared these cottonwood trees. And that's the end of my story. And this is my tweet. But this is a one time that is worse than all of the previous times.
Sure, and something like that's obviously something that's concerning, right? I know it's all concerning, but that one is.
Get scared easily. I physically left my home. I thought that thing was going to crash. But as John says, this is an extreme example,
Sure.
and thank you for accepting this. But it's constant helicopters, not possibly 70 feet above our head, but not much more than 70 feet above our head.
Sure. So let me, and I see your hand, I'll get to you, I just wanna make sure we respond to this. So,
Just to corroborate, because she saw that.
Okay.
She saw that happen.
so again, that one clearly concerning, we will look into it. Our helicopter users at the airport are limited. So we pretty much know them all. Single engine aircraft, fixed wing, that's a little bit different. They're transient, which means they're coming from elsewhere. We may not know who they are. But definitely we'll look into this. So, trying to remember your other point about approaching over the lake. And that's completely appropriate when they're able. right? Our traffic controllers are the best in the business. I honestly believe that. They have a busy job. And they are directing that traffic to keep people safe. They're directing them on what altitude to come into the airport at. And in general, as they approach the airport, they are going to be at a lower altitude for sure. We can ask, now this is what we can do, right? Again, our flight schools care to be in Provo, right? Generally, when we ask, they respond when they can, right? What I can't do is take away the runway that brings them to the airport. We can get them doing every other aspect of training away from the airport. But when it comes to landing and taking off, there's one place they can do that, right? So yeah.
Just in relation to this, and I think I brought this up maybe 2 neighborhood meetings ago, but I spoke with, flew out of my head, but one of the directors at the airport, one of them, there's more than one, and he indicated to me that the master plan for this does include correcting the flight path of that secondary runway at some point in the future, and that might help with that. But do you think with the traffic pattern, as you said, will it help? I mean, I'm just
for sure. So our crosswind runway is essentially straight north and south, right? It's very seldom used for landing, more for takeoffs out over the lake. So occasionally it is used for landing. In our current master plan that's approved and adopted by the FAA, it shows that runway being decommissioned at some point. When the pavement deteriorates to whatever point that it's no longer salvageable or safe to land on, take off from, that runway currently in the current planning documents is slated to be decommissioned, and the master plan shows a second parallel runway to our main runway, which is roughly southeast northwest.
Yeah.
So again, that runway is used seldomly, but definitely would help because that's one less runway that's going further over into the neighborhoods. Couple more, Malia, yeah.
I am speaking for David Gale, actually, who's on Zoom. A question, isn't the area where the planes are flying where the new workforce housing is going to be built?
I'm not familiar with that project, so I don't know.
It's just south of the Provo High parking lot.
It's close. Again, the standard traffic pattern is anywhere from a half mile to a mile off of the runway, parallel with the runway. So stands to reason it's probably close.
One of the things about the neighborhood, the Lakeview neighborhood, is if you're not actually right under the airplanes as they're doing their circuits, it's not that bad. But if you're under this plane and they all do the same circuits, I can show you circuit after circuit, and you're under that path, your life is unbearable because it never stops. And so if this may not be a big issue for a lot of people in Lakeview, like I can deal with the helicopters. I don't like it. I've seen some really violent stuff, but it doesn't happen 120 times a day. Like the flights right over the top of the homes. It happens maybe a few times a day, or if that.
Helicopters happen in my neighborhood. The bad ones that my windows vibrate 10 to 12 times a day.
Oh.
The other helicopters usually are high up enough that the sound is bad, but the windows are not shaking.
Right. So it makes a big difference if you're actually right under the circuits or not. People who live even like a block and a half from me, I've been there, it's not that bad. Or a block and a half from my neighbors. But the circuits, anyway, so you might, if you live in Lakeview, you might be aware that circuits can change and you might end up being under one of the circuits. And as long as we can help the controllers avoid these congested areas, You know, personally, some of the people I'm working with, we're gonna try to work with the FAA to make, you know, this should be 1,000 feet here. It's congested enough, all comparable areas according to them. With this many people living there, it's not below 1,000 feet.
And I will say, John, that's what they're supposed to fly, is 1,000 feet.
Oh, really?
There's no difference, right? Now, again, they can be directed otherwise by air traffic control. For whatever reason, right? Whether they're trying to avoid someone else or there's traffic coming in at a certain altitude. They can be directed otherwise. But just general run of the mill, unless it's published otherwise in your chart. I mean, just like the 4-way stop example, you're taught as a pilot, you stay 1,000 feet above populated areas. Except when you're approaching an airport, obviously, because you gotta get down to land. And then when directed otherwise by air traffic control.
So I just have a couple of questions. I live in Lakewood, so I don't necessarily have a dog in this fight. But I'm curious, this is something that I've been on the board for a few years now, and I have just started hearing about in the last few months. And so I'm curious, as a director, if there has been a huge uptick in the amount of schools that have started using the Provo Airport in the last few years, and if that is what's kind of maybe causing this to be more of an issue, or if the flight patterns have changed in the last few years, or if both have happened. I'm just curious because I never have heard about this before this time, and maybe I just didn't hear about it. But now it seems to be a big issue to several people in their neighborhood. So I'm just curious, you know, what has changed to make this an issue, and if there is a way, you know, if you know, obviously you told us that there are certain things that you can't control with the flight routes, the traffic, but if there's a way to push back, you know, for quality of life in the neighborhoods and say, listen, you can come here, but you can only have so many planes, or you can only, you know what I mean, kind of limit the amount of traffic.
And we've done that, we have, but again, the extent of our influence is asked, right? They have.
So ultimately, you have no control. The FAA can.
We have tried to do that.
In the school, and you can't say no.
We have tried to limit that in the past, and then the FAA came to us that you can't be restricting traffic in and out of your airport. We've tried.
So you can't even say how many of the flight schools can take off per day. You don't get to do it. They just say, have it available, we're coming, you know, or they radio in.
And our obligation is to be open to the aviation public, to provide a facility that's safe, that's maintained, and equal opportunity for all.
What difference have you seen over the last?
So to answer your question.
Is influencing.
So definitely an uptick in flight schools, and not just in Provo, right? And I think if you followed kind of what happened during the pandemic, where you had over 7,000 commercial pilots leaving the system, right? Due to early retirement, and then quick rebound from the pandemic, right? And there's a pilot shortage. And so what happens? Pay goes up, try to attract, and now look out, you can make 300,000 a year to pilot. So I think that has something to do with it. Now I will say, in the early 2000s, we actually had more general aviation traffic than we do now.
Were there less homes maybe in the flight path?
I don't know.
They weren't doing the circuits at the same time.
So it could have been that they're, yeah, I don't know. But that is in about what the crash in 07, 08, general aviation went down significantly and it's started to climb back.
Have you received, how many formal complaints have you received, would you say, in the last 6 months, a year?
I don't know, Matt, 10 or 12? Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, go ahead.
That was my question.
Maybe Matt can answer this, but I think there's different elevations requirements, high and low, for helicopters and planes. So if they're meeting the minimum and the maximum, if they want to play hardball, they can tell you go pound sand because they're within the FFA standards.
And again, there's kind of the default in uncontrolled situation, right? Play nice in the sandbox, everybody, right? Where it's expected, you should be. But again, depending on traffic conditions, all those sorts of things, they can be directed otherwise. So with that, I know you got other items. I'm happy to take maybe one more question.
Was your master plan staying in your footprint?
Yes. We generally do not like to plan airport facilities on property we don't own. There are some private property owners that have said, hey, we want to be part of the airport. And I say, well, does that mean you want to be shown as some airport related use? Absolutely. But yes, it's basically west of Lakeview Parkway, even some of those parcels we don't own around Kingsing and the Boone family and some of those. So we're not including any of that in our proposals, in our master plan. Anyway, thank you for listening again. John, I can't say I know what you feel, but when I was first married, we lived on the 2100 North on-ramp I-15 in Lehigh, where State Street and I-15 come together. And every single night there was fire engine without fail. And that was a quality of life issue. And I'm sorry, I wish I could do more. What we can do, my commitment to you, is to talk to our controllers, to our schools, and when they can, avoid the populated areas of Provo.
That would be great, thank you. And if they could start flying at 1,000 feet, that would probably solve the problem because none of them are. They're flying at 500 feet or less.
Sure. Anyway, thank you. Come to our open house, please. It's a great time to be at Provo Airport. Such awesome support from our OSI neighbors. And again, my commitment is I will ask, I will plead, I will do everything in my power to try and move the needle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing. We're gonna move on to our next item. We've got two brainstorming topics we wanted to cover. The first is brainstorming community cleanup and matching grant ideas. So if you don't know, Provo City offers us a certain amount of money as a matching grant that we can use to pay towards any sort of community improvement that we want to make. The only ask that they do is that we need to do a certain number of service hours to earn that grant essentially. So we need to kind of come up with two things. One is, what do we want to do to earn our service hours? And then the second thing is, what would be a project that we would like to take on for our matching grant idea? And maybe just to get the juices flowing, some of the things we've done in the past in terms of matching grant is additional benches at a park. Brooke helped organize putting some rock there along I-15, kind of by the Provo frontage road, kind of by the Provo Mall, but on the other side. So those sorts of things, anything that we can think that would beautify, improve quality of life, improve the neighborhood, those are the sorts of things that we'd like to hear. So any ideas? Yeah.
The little pieces that are next to the freeway, I believe they're owned by Rocky Mountain Power. If we could make those look better instead of little dumpy areas, that would be really awesome. They're small.
By Center Street.
There's several.
Yeah, so we did that one that was
Like South Frontage Road area.
South Frontage
Yeah,
Road.
across from where you did the gravel.
Uh-huh.
There's one there, but there's also one north on 600 South. There's several and they just look dumpy. If we could make those look nice, that would be great.
So I think with those, if they're owned by Rocky Mountain Power, right? From what I understand from the last project that we did, definitely doable, a lot of red tape, but worth it. But because I think it's kind of like a, where like what is the park strip in front of your house? We don't own our park strip, right? But we're supposed to maintain it. I think that's kind of a thing where we maintain those spots, but technically Rocky Mountain Power still, owns them. So I think that's definitely doable.
Great idea.
I think it's a great idea, and you guys have been mentioning it, that the students, you're probably going to give them the availability to be able to go in and do art on our walls along the walking trails. And I think that's an excellent idea. I know that Orem proposed that about 3 weeks ago, and they're getting some of that done. They're letting the high school students doing it. BYU students can get involved. But if I could make one more suggestion, and I don't know if it can even be feasible or controllable, but anytime you have something like that, there's always the threat and the possibility of graffiti. And in that case, if we could take and put in a dedicated area for our graffiti artists, some of them are just phenomenal artists. And if we could propose that and let them just do their thing there, I think that would take some of the burden off of our crew that goes around and soda blasts our graffiti on our underpasses and buildings.
Are you thinking like painting along the river trail, or where, like just underpasses, or where would you?
Well, I know that Orem in particular is along the Murdoch Trail.
Yeah.
But, and I can't really think of any right now, but I'm sure we've got concrete barriers along our walking trails. They don't necessarily have to be 5 feet high, but if it's pleasing, fits into the general, aesthetics, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, Haley?
Please.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry, this is just a thought. It's interesting to have the must be visible from the street part. That's the hard part. For me.
Yes.
I know I love the new Delta Park. There aren't a lot of benches there actually.
That's a good idea.
And that might be considered visible from the street.
I think that would count.
Yeah, we can also just
not
have
wanting it.
parks before we have to coordinate, obviously, with the park department, but that is kind of.
I think visible by the street is more like, we can't go inside somebody's home and repaint their house. Like it's just kind
Yeah,
of
it's
like.
like I can't put the money in my pocket and say, I'm gonna
Yeah.
put a pergola in my backyard and improve.
Okay.
It's just sort of like taking that out of the equation. So it doesn't necessarily have to
Okay,
be.
thank
like-
you. I was like
Makes sense.
driving by in my car. What can I see?
Yeah. No.
My other thought that just comes to mind immediately is Footprinter, and I haven't been down there in a long time for that reason, pretty much. So I don't know. I don't even know.
There's pushbacks from.
Okay, from that. Okay, all right.
For years. So there we go. Oh, there's a lot of pushback from parks. So.
I almost got them to fix the drinking fountain.
Yeah, we tried last year to get them to fix the kitchen.
I got the bathrooms working
Yeah.
after a very exciting time.
Any other ideas, either for
Oh.
projects or for like a service, like we also
But
need service
Is
hours.
that kind of the same for all West Parks? Is there a lot of pushback from parks usually? Or is it just that specific park?
That
Because
specific park was, park stuff is insane. The cost of a pavilion is just unreal.
right.
I've even said, hey,
yeah,
Costco's got
paint
one for
sale, they're like
$1,500. They're unreal. So in reality, what you can do with $7,500
It's minimal, yeah,
it's probably 2 park benches, to be honest.
of course.
That was what we put in at Lakewood Park.
No, I
2
totally
picnic
understand that.
benches with our money.
My other thought that comes to mind is Allreen Wilderness Park has,
That's not in our area.
it's not, oh, is it just, I'm sorry.
No, it's too far.
It's west of the freeway.
Okay.
That's what makes.
That is a good idea.
It is a good
I
idea.
think that Mark could use my skills.
Had
Tell
enough
the
money
other
that
neighbor
we
that
could,
you're.
we could do everything. I still love this because it gives us an opportunity to put the money towards stuff that we felt instead of just administration feels that it needs to be done. So, yeah, my one thought about the graffiti area, I do know that some of those tags are gang related, so they would have to, I'm sure.
Or swears.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That would be,
really,
that would be something you'd have to run past police.
or painting under an overpass, I think is cool ideas.
Saw something that the city was doing.
Is there, they
something
doing
like
that
a
under-
mural or something.
Well, they're
right?
doing it
Along
in the
the
river
trail.
trail.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were referring to as the river trail and giving a section just for the graffiti
We
artists.
do have the section there on Geneva Road, that underpass would be in our
Over
area.
by the high school.
And by the high school. The high school one has like
Does it
art
have-
into the
oh, that's
concrete a
true,
little
yes,
bit.
yeah.
The one on Geneva, that doesn't, it's just a boring cement tunnel. Yeah,
Hey, this is from David Gale. I was going to say the same thing. This is referring to the, what is it? Delta Gateway Park and benches. Benches
Really?
along the Gateway Trail would be nice, or maybe a built-in chess/game table by the observation tower.
Oh, yeah.
observation towers, like technically, I don't.
Oh,
It's
you
like
County land
It's-
managed by, that's probably a little bit trickier, we could try. I think the Delta Gateway Park is probably a little bit easier than Fort Mason.
It's a lot of red hoops when the city doesn't.
Yeah.
I have PTSD from the last. Haley had a really good idea too. She should.
Just one of my ideas. Well, it actually started as my idea and grew from some of my neighbors, but I don't think we have a representative from Fort Utah. But there's an area in Fort Utah, I think they're kind of like the Geneva's home that was built forever ago, like 80 years ago, just east of Fort Utah Park. And that neighborhood is kind of run down. And so my idea was to work with the neighbors. So many of them that live there are skilled. And include the neighbors to put in like the time and hours to paint their homes and beautify their park strips. So many of the park strips are just dead grass and weeds. Plant trees, plant in the yards and help maybe even just like one street, could beautify one street at a time. Jane Tongish is your Fort Utah chair. Okay, he's one, he's very well aware. You're a really good one. Yeah, and I just think that like money can go really far that way when you have people volunteering their time and you don't have to hire professionals when it's actually the neighbors helping to put in their time.
So that area is in my ward, and I think there's a lot of people that have moved in, younger couples that have bought homes. And I think you get a lot of support, and that would form kind of a group to build it out.
And you can get free trees if you hit up. Yeah, so there's a lot of programs that could help us get free trees. There's like a park strip. There are park strip programs, but I don't know if any of those qualify because they're actually really narrow, but donation things. Ways to like leverage the money that the city is already giving us to like make the most out of it. Like Becky said, like we can really only buy 1 or 2 benches, or like last year we put in the sign, the speed sign.
The speed sign.
Oh yeah, sorry everyone.
Yep.
We tried to put it in a useful spot, but that's all you can use the money for, you know, you just can't buy a lot, but if we found a way to leverage the money and to get the community involved. And then I just also wanted to say if, so we do have to earn the money with our service hours. And so a lot of like the youth in your neighborhoods are already doing service projects, especially this time of year, like breaking leaves for neighbors or mowing lawns or whatever you guys are doing, pruning trees. If you know of a group that's doing something like that and you can send us the hours, then we can put those hours towards earning our money. And Rachel has something you said to say.
I was gonna say, so the Joaquin neighborhood used to do what's called paint your heart out, where they would pick a block and they would paint it, and that would be their matching grant and their service hours all at once.
Good idea.
Because they would buy the supplies with the matching grant funds, and then the volunteers would paint it.
I
So
think
you
they
do-
got BYU
you do it all
students
at-
involved in
yeah.
that
So
too.
we can use the money before
Yes.
if we have a plan to.
Right,
plan
if
the
you
hours.
have a plan, you can say, we're gonna have this many volunteers come and stuff, and it's something that we can get Y-Serve involved with. And it's something that Joaquin used to do it every year for their matching grant and service project all in one go.
I'm really.
Okay. Just on that topic of that neighborhood that you were discussing. I haven't been in West Provo as long as those houses are old. But I believe that there's about 3 or 4 block square right in the middle of that neighborhood. And I believe the city owns it. It used to be,
About the park.
it used to be very nice, and they used to have nice basketball courts.
It's been.
I apologize, I don't go over there.
It's been improved.
Go check it out and let us know if there's any other things you think. It is significantly better.
I commend them then.
You just brought up something that reminded me, so because you were talking about a speed limit sign, and I actually knew at some point, but I love that idea of combining, so this isn't to negate that at all, I was just came up, so I'm gonna say it, as we are seeing more and more traffic down Center Street, there is a school crossing that might benefit from one of those flashing yield pedestrian signs.
From Amelia.
Yeah, in front
I
of.
actually talked to the gal that's running that on Sunday. And she says half the time she's afraid to take those kids across that street.
Exactly, I
They
know,
had the same problem over on Center Street when they were doing Provo Peaks. And they put in some additional island in the middle of it.
Crosswalk flash. The traffic
but that has to go, I actually already know what you're.
Those have to go through the school community council.
The one by,
They're a community body, and then there's laws. He's got a book, he says it's like
lines
this
that,
thick.
yeah, the lines that get you.
And Vern has to study, I don't know what all goes into that,
We own that.
but they have to meet those warrants in order for them to put it in.
Is somebody working on that?
I don't know, that would be.
Because it's something they
discussed.
should be.
Well, if it doesn't meet the law and the standards and the warrants, that's.
So I understand that, but that's an excuse to me. And I don't mean to be saying that, but you know, they had somebody hit over here on Center by Provo Peaks before they finally got it done.
So I'll tell you that we.
You know, I've lived on the west side now for 45 years. And I remember when Ninth West and Reams down there did not have a light. You know, and we had to have a whole bunch of wrecks before finally the state did it. So somebody needs to just stop using excuses. And I don't mean to be harsh, but that's what it is.
You can say whatever you want to, but
If
it has to
somebody
go
gets busy, they'll get it done.
well, Vern has been very, very on top of it, and I'm gonna defend him. He has
Maybe it
been,
needs to go all the way to the mayor.
the mayor has no control over it. If you want something done about that book, you're gonna have to go to the state legislature.
It does lead well to our next topic, which is we have a certain number of traffic studies that we can request for our area. So if there are areas like that, get me the details of the specific area and we can do 5 per year. We have not requested any, so come to me with your traffic concerns.
That they're back, I think we're back.
There might be a backlog,
Of course.
but let me know what areas you're concerned about.
Do the study in the same area.
Yes, you can't, there's some limitation on like they will only do the same area every 3
Like 3
years or
years,
something
I
like that, but. Hit me with your ideas. Yes.
So that's the reason I'm here tonight. And I've written both the mayor and Catrice about this in the last month. By my count, it could be off. There's about 700 new dwelling units going in the west side. And there's no additional traffic as far as roads, lanes, etc. Now, Catrice said, you know, Center Street is a state street, which Needham may be too.
in Geneva.
And so my experience with UDOT in all my 70 years is they do things after the fact and don't worry about it. But on Center in Geneva, we're gonna have another 200, 300 homes. You know, once they get the Kroger property done. And if we live over there, and I do, we're not even gonna be able to get out of our neighborhood sometimes. And that doesn't include the commercial traffic that's now going to the airport.
Or the Epic Sports Park.
You know, or the Epic Sports part. I know that, you know, we put in the highway down below going to the airport.
Duncan Aviation.
But there needs to be some major concern on this. Because as soon as all those houses get built, both on Geneva and Center, and then the one that's going west of that, we're gonna have major problems on this side. And something needs to be done. You know,
The
and
feedback is that
we're gonna wait
talk
until
to
we're
the
gonna have problems far worse than the
Up
airport.
to Geneva, right?
And Geneva
Well,
already
Center to Geneva
It
and
is.
Geneva.
I mean,
are state.
rush hour.
The freeway is on.
Geneva is-
That's
Yeah.
Center Street.
Yes.
Is
And if there's any kind of a accident on the freeway,
Wasn't
it
the road.
reroutes to Geneva, and
West
it's a
of
joke.
Geneva Center.
I mean, I definitely hear that. We can put a traffic study there, if we might be able to ask, is it better to wait until the houses are there? Cause if we're
I
thinking
would-
that's gonna add.
So if we wait till the houses are
I don't
there,
think Vern will.
that's what I'm saying.
You don't
Wait
think Vern will
until it's done.
No,
It's
it's
not
UDOT,
far, yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
Geneva on Center to the
To the
freeway,
I-15.
and we don't own any part of Geneva.
We have to
own-
understand our limitations on this, like, we're not invalidating what anyone is saying, but we're just saying that we don't have the power. Nor does the city, the council, the mayor, this is a state legislature thing, so if you're very passionate about that, you need to get the state legislature involved.
So, but I actually think the city,
But the city has no power.
I understand that. But they have all the power in the world if you really wanna know the truth. Because the mayor can go to the legislature, she's our best advocate.
And she did.
And we have legislators that are elected from here. So when we, you know, it's just passing the buck. And, you know, somebody's gonna say, well, it really isn't, but it is. We have legislators that should be carrying the ball from the city. And what's gonna happen is we're gonna be 10, 15 years down the road, and we're gonna be just like 2100 North in Lehigh, and all the roads going out to Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs. So, you know, it's kind of squeaky wheel gets the grease. But all this, we don't have any power, yeah, we have power. You know,
Well, I
and
would
there's an
say-
election coming up next year for the legislature. And maybe we need to start, you know, being a little more squeaky. Because otherwise, I'm telling you, you know, my friends in this neighborhood, we're gonna have problems. And it's kind of, I understand, you know, Catrice told me, they're talking about it. Talk is cheap, they've gotta do something.
Talk to Marcia, talk to Michelle. I know both of them have worked for years on the issue with the state. So they would be really good resources to talk about what has been done and what could be done at from a state legislature point of view. That
Lisa
would be-
Shepherd is the current.
Yeah,
state
Lisa Shepherd would
provost
be-
of West Provo.
But she doesn't sit
She's
on,
normally here, but.
she doesn't sit on the transportation committee.
You can't talk to the transportation committee?
She can talk to them, but what they're gonna tell her is, we've talked about different things. Mike McKell, Senator Mike McKell.
Yeah.
He's some of the senators for part of West Provo. The other one's Grover.
Right.
McKell does sit on that transportation committee. So you may have to shoot an email to Mike McKell. But they prioritize them, right?
Yeah.
Center Street is here, Lehigh's here.
I understand, but it's going to be there really soon. We're adding on the airport, we're adding more commercial down there, we're adding homes. This is gonna be a problem, I'm telling you.
Sorry, we've had a hand up right here. We've got to end in the next couple of minutes, but let's take.
So sorry.
No, just real
Everybody
quick.
talked a bunch. You
Yeah,
go.
no, I agree. I think the most effective way to communicate that is through the local state legislators, both at the House and Senate level. Cause they're the ones that they get on the ear. I have friends that work at UDOT and they get all their pressure and directive from state reps. More than city people. So, and I think it's not just your one in your district, but talk to all of them in the city of Provo and try and get them on board to change.
Good point. Are there any areas that are Provo roads that we could put a traffic study on? That anyone has concern? If you, maybe 1 minute to take it and then you can always come talk to me after.
Have they done one on 6 South between the,
They did that before the
You
sports
did?
park opened.
Yes,
but
that's
can we do one now that
the sports park is open?
We wish that we could, but there are rules about.
We can talk to
We-
Vern, we'll try.
Okay.
And we want it in the summer.
We could also maybe try one on, I don't know what road that is, but the road that goes north there
Epic
at that
Lane?
intersection.
Epic
Yeah,
Lane.
Epic Lane, but then feeds into like Amelia.
24/7.
Yeah.
Like that's technically a different street. Maybe we can see how much of the traffic is leaking over into that neighborhood.
There's Lakeshore Drive. That is become a very popular place for speed exhibition by the high school students. Doing cookies, squealing, and there is speeding there too.
You're
But
saying like Lakeshore Drive, north of where there's currently like all the construction by the Epic. Gateway Park,
from the high school south,
to the south of that.
the high school down south, yeah, going south.
And there's actually that intersection, I think it's the west continuation of 620 North, where it meets
Lakeshore.
the south part of the high school and that 620 North. There's a bridge on the south side. It's a 5-lane crossing.
Yeah.
But so when you cross, there's the people coming from the bridge
And from the high school.
and from the high school, and I walk that often, and it's a difficult 5-lane to
Yeah,
cross.
it's big.
There's an aisle
Yeah.
on the south end of that intersection, but there's no pedestrian crosswalk.
Yeah.
The pedestrian crosswalk is on the north part, but so you negotiate the first half of the road. And then you're waiting in the middle of the road for the other traffic to go the other direction.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be a place where maybe they could put another pedestrian something to interrupt that 5-lane crossing,
I don't know
because they do
if
speed.
they have too much for like tracking pedestrian traffic. I think it's mostly like the car traffic that they can track, but we can ask, right? Like
Count 'em.
It's
Out there to count 'em. You wanna
Oh,
make sure
yeah.
that when you do that, you tell them what time of day has the most traffic. Because it's gonna be by pedestrian count.
So you're asking for just a pedestrian count there? Is that what,
it's not like pedestrian and speed.
and
It's also
speed,
like another
so both?
Well,
Okay.
my concern is the concern of a pedestrian. When I'm at that intersection, I'm crossing on the north, I'm crossing east-west on the north side. And there's nothing for me to stop midway through that crosswalk to negotiate that traffic.
Because the cars are coming fast enough that you can't get all the way across.
Yeah.
And
And then there's the bridge on this side, so if the
You don't see
cars
it.
are speeding
Yeah.
across the bridge.
you
So
could be
as
halfway across and all of a sudden you see a car, but you're not gonna make it before the car
as
hits
a
you.
pedestrian, you
There's a
can't,
crosswalk
you
there.
can't make
There
it.
is a crosswalk there, but no light.
The crosswalk is on the north side of that intersection, but the cement aisle in the middle of the road is on the south side of the intersection, and there's no crosswalk there.
I know what spot you're talking about, so I
You know
got
what
it.
I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I got it written down.
Maybe that.
Okay, sorry, I know there's more ideas. Please come talk to me afterwards. You can email me or call me if you got any other ideas. But we are gonna
We
move
can put it on
on.
the Lakewood Facebook page too, if you guys want.
Brooke, you wanna do a quick raffle?
Oh, yeah, okay, we're doing a raffle. We've got some threads. We've got 2 crossbody bags and like a water bottle holder bag. So if you have your card, does anyone need a card that didn't get a card? Wants a card? I mean, come get one, come get one. Anybody else want a raffle ticket?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll raffle off 2. All right, I'm just gonna randomly pick, not looking. Okay, the number is 02671696. Oh.
I will choose your prize.
These are water bottle holders, and then these are just crossbody bags. So those are water bottle holders.
Sling bag? Is that what it?
Yeah, like sling, yeah, like the front crossbody bags. Sweet, all right, and then we'll do one more. Okay. 02671501. 1501. Anybody left? No? Okay, last call 1501. 02671505. Nope. We were gonna do some at the beginning, but then I forgot the back. Sorry, guys. Okay. 02671699.
Nice. I'm taking pride.
So, and these are thread bags. They're a local we're supporting. So, yeah, you can get, you can put your water bottle in those if you have your water bottle. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Once again, I just wanted to say thank you everyone for coming out, spending your evening with us. We really appreciate it, right? I think this is how Provo is a great city to live in and how it continues to be, and we can make it better the more involved we get, right? So. Thank you.
Good.
I think we're good. If you have any additional comments, we're always here. Come talk to us. We want to hear and talk to your councilman and your mayor. Yes, Rachel.
We just had some chatter online about the Minnow annexation. So I just wanted to give some information on that. It is going to the Planning Commission on November 12th and the City Council on December 2nd. And this is an annexation, which means we have no idea as to what they want to do with this property. That's not anything that we're told in the annexation process. Please keep in mind that right now it is zoned residential agricultural with the county, which means they can build houses on it through the county. If it is annexed into Provo, it will be annexed in as open space, parks and recreation, which means they have no development rights. If they do want to build on it, they're going to have to do a zone change, which usually zone changes, we have the developer come to our meeting. It goes to the Planning Commission, it goes to the City Council.
That's Dave Gardner, isn't it? Gardner and Associates?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's also doing one that he's not building, he's just facilitating in these.
Now, Gardner and Associates have been around forever and ever and ever. They're top quality and very reputable.
Oh.
And he's been in Provo, since for 50 years.
So anyway, we don't have any information on what they want to do. That wouldn't be until later.
Only concern is mitigated wetland.
Right. And it's not zoned wetland, it's zoned residential
It's
agriculture
Lakewood, or if you can't make it.
For the county.
for the county.
So do you want to bring it into the Provo those?
It's like in a lot of- That's like.
Okay, that's it. Okay, I'm done, Andrew.
Thank you.
We did our annexation.
Thanks for coming. Take a cookie on your way out.
Yes, take lots of cookies.